My name is Claire Mercer. I'm 41 years old, and the morning I found out my business partner of 8 years had been stealing my clients, my systems, and my name, she was sitting across from me at our Monday meeting asking me to approve her expense report. I approved it. Then I excused myself to the bathroom, called my attorney, and said 4 words. "Start the clock, Grace." Here's what Dana didn't know. I had known for 11 days. Every day I went into that office, smiled, approved her reports, and added one more item to a folder Grace called the cleanest fraud file she'd seen in 20 years of practice. But let me take you back to the beginning, because this story starts not with betrayal, but with a phone call from a client who thought she was doing me a favor. My name is Claire Mercer. I built Mercer Analytics from a spare bedroom in my apartment in 2016. I was 33, newly divorced, 2 consulting clients, and a laptop that overheated if I ran Excel and Chrome at the same time. Mercer Analytics did one thing. We took messy financial data for mid-size companies and turned it into clean quarterly reports their boards could actually read. Not glamorous, not viral, but every CFO I ever met was drowning in data they couldn't present, and I knew how to build the life raft. By year 2, I had 11 clients and a revenue problem. Not a bad one, a growth one. Too much work for one person. That's when Dana Cole walked into my life. She came through a referral from a client, 36 at the time, sharp, organized. She had spent 8 years at a mid-size accounting firm and left because, she said, they promoted men who played golf over women who built systems. I understood that sentence immediately.
Our first meeting was at a coffee shop on Burnside Avenue. She ordered black coffee and pulled out a yellow legal pad with 12 questions already written on it, not about salary, about how I thought about client relationships, about what our growth ceiling was, about what kept me up at night. I hired her 3 days later. Her title was Director of Client Services. Her actual job was everything I couldn't do while I was doing everything else. She was good, not almost good, genuinely operationally good. She built the client onboarding system that cut our setup time from 3 weeks to 5 days. She created the reporting templates that every client still uses today. She remembered every client's dog's name, every CFO's preferred meeting time, every quirk in every data system we touched. By year 4, she was my partner, 40% equity, her name on the door, Mercer Cole Analytics. I trusted her the way you trust someone who has been in the foxhole with you, completely, without checking. That was my mistake, not the trust, the without checking. The call came on a Tuesday in March. Helen Marsh, CFO of Bexfield Manufacturing, one of our oldest clients, 11 years together, the kind of client who sends Christmas cards and refers their friends. She called my personal cell at 7:14 in the morning. "Claire," she said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." I said, "Of course." She said, "Are you running a second company?" I said, "What?" She said, "Someone reached out to our board last month, email from a company called Cole Analytics Group. The pitch was almost identical to yours. Same methodology, same reporting templates, same language in the proposal. We assumed it was you trying out a new brand, but the contract they sent had Dana's name on it as sole owner, no mention of you." I sat down on the edge of my bed. Helen kept going. "We didn't sign with them, but I wanted you to know, because if this is what I think it is, you deserve to know before it gets worse." I thanked her. I told her I'd be in touch. I hung up. I sat there for 4 minutes and 17 seconds. I know because I watched the clock on my phone. Then I opened my laptop and typed 2 words into the Oregon Business Registry: Cole Analytics. The registration date was 14 months ago. 14 months. While she was sitting at the desk 12 feet from mine, Dana had been building a company using everything we built together:
our methodology, our templates, our client list, our systems, and my name, not directly, but close enough that Helen Marsh had assumed it was me. I closed the laptop. I did not call Dana. I did not send an email. I did not change my expression when she walked into the office at 8:47 that morning with 2 coffees and a complaint about the parking garage. I took the coffee, I said good morning, and I started keeping records.
I need to tell you who I am professionally because it matters for what came next. I am a financial analyst. I have been one for 18 years. Before Mercer Analytics, I spent a decade at a firm that did forensic accounting for litigation support. I know how money moves. I know how to follow it. I know what a paper trail looks like when someone is trying to hide one, and I know how to make one so clean a federal judge could read it. Dana had chosen the wrong person to steal from, and she had given me 11 days before my attorney told me to move. Grace O'Coffer has been my attorney for 6 years. She is 53 years old. She has short, natural hair and reads contracts the way surgeons read scans, methodical, looking for the thing that is about to kill you. I called her from my car in the parking structure below our office, same morning as Helen's call, before I went upstairs. Grace listened without interrupting. When she finished, she was quiet for exactly 5 seconds. Then she said, "Do not touch anything in the office systems yet. Do not confront her. Do not change passwords or access permissions. You do that now, and she knows you know, and everything moves underground." I said, "What do I do?" She said, "Go upstairs, be normal, send me everything Helen told you, and then let me build the room before we turn on the lights." I said, "How long?" She said, 2 weeks, maybe 10 days if she moves fast. I said, "And if she approaches more of our clients in that window?" Grace said, "Then we document that too. Every client she contacts becomes another count." I went upstairs. Dana was already at her desk. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," I said. And that was the beginning of the 11 days.
The object that held the whole 11 days together was a folder. Not a digital one, a physical one. Dark blue, legal size. The kind that closes with a metal clasp. Every morning I arrived before Dana. Every morning I spent 30 minutes in the server logs, the client access records, the outbound email archives. I had full admin access to every system. Dana did not know I checked them because I had never needed to before. What I found grew that folder from thin to 3 inches thick in 11 days. Day 1. Cole Analytics Group had sent proposals to 4 of our clients. Helen was one. 3 others had not told me. Day 3. Dana had exported our complete client database 9 months ago. The full list, every contact, every contract term, every billing rate. Day 5. The reporting templates she had built for Mercer Cole were registered as intellectual property under Cole Analytics Group, filed 6 months ago. Day 7. 3 of our clients had received a second round of contact. The pitch had changed. It now mentioned that Claire Mercer would be stepping back from day-to-day operations. Stepping back. I was sitting at my desk 11 feet away working 60 hours a week. Day 9. I found the rate sheet Cole Analytics Group was using with prospective clients. It undercut our pricing by exactly 12%. Not 11, not 15, 12. The precise margin that would make a CFO choose her without feeling like they were making a dramatic move. She had studied our pricing the way a surgeon studies anatomy, from the inside. Day 10. Grace called. She said, "I need you to do one thing tomorrow and then we move on day 11. I said, "What thing?" She said, "I need you to approve her expense report." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because there's a $340 charge from a business registration service filed under office supplies. If you approve it, you are not approving theft. You are creating a record that she submitted fraudulent expenses. One more count. Approve it and then call me when she leaves for lunch." I approved it the next morning. Then I excused myself, called Grace, said 4 words, "Start the clock." Grace moved in 3 directions at once. First, a cease and desist to Cole Analytics Group, citing trade secret misappropriation, intellectual property theft, and breach of fiduciary duty. Second, letters to every client who had been contacted, not threatening, informational, explaining that Cole Analytics Group had no rights to Mercer Cole's methodologies, templates, or client relationships, offering each client a conversation. Third, a filing with the Oregon Secretary of State disputing the intellectual property registration on our templates. All 3 arrived on the same Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Dana was at her desk when her personal phone started ringing. I watched her look at the screen. I watched her face change, the specific change of someone who has just understood that the thing they thought was invisible is standing in the room. She looked up at me. I looked back. I said, "We should talk." We sat in the conference room, the same room where we had pitched our first big client, where we had signed the partnership agreement, where we had celebrated every milestone for 8 years. I put the blue folder on the table between us. She looked at it, then at me. She said, "How long have you known?" I said, 11 days. She said, "I was going to tell you. I was going to propose a split, an amicable separation, 2 companies, clean." I said, "You exported our client database 9 months ago. You registered our intellectual property under your name 6 months ago. You told our clients I was stepping back. That is not a separation proposal. That is a takeover." She said nothing. I opened the folder. I placed the first document on the table. Client database export, 9 months ago. Your login, your timestamp. Second document, intellectual property registration, Cole Analytics Group. Our templates, your name. Third document, client contact log. 4 clients, 2 rounds each. The email that says Claire Mercer is stepping back. Fourth document, rate sheet. 12% below our pricing, built from our internal cost structure that only you and I have access to. Fifth document, expense report, approved yesterday morning, business registration service, filed as office supplies. I placed each one slowly, the way you place evidence in an audit. Dana watched every page land. When I finished, I said, "Grace has already filed. The cease and desist reached you this morning. The client letters went out at 9. The IP dispute is with the state." She said, "You could have just talked to me." I said, "You had 14 months to talk to me." She looked at the folder, at the 5 documents, at 8 years sitting between us on a conference table. Then she said the thing that told me everything I needed to know about who she had become. She said, "I built half of this." I said, "You did, and you were paid and equitied for every piece of it. What you built for us was ours. What you took was mine." She had no answer for that. Grace had told me what to expect, and Grace was right. Dana's first move was her attorney, a letter citing her 40% equity and demanding a valuation and buyout. Standard. We expected it. Grace responded with a counterfiling, breach of fiduciary duty, theft of trade secrets, the expense report count, and a clause in our partnership agreement that Dana had signed in year 4. The clause said that any partner who solicits clients or establishes a competing entity during the partnership forfeits their equity stake. Dana's attorney went quiet for 4 days. Then Dana called me directly. No attorney, just her voice on my personal phone at 8 in the evening. She said, "I panicked. The business wasn't growing the way I needed it to. I have a mortgage, I have 2 kids in private school. I thought I could build something on the side and then propose a split when it was ready." I said, "You told our clients I was stepping back." She said, "I know, that was wrong. That was the thing I can't take back." I said, "It was one of several things you can't take back." She said, "What do we do now?"
I said, "Grace handles everything from here." I hung up. I sat in my car for a while, in the dark, with the blue folder on the passenger seat. I thought about the coffee shop on Burnside, the yellow legal pad, the 12 questions. I thought about how good she was, how genuinely good, and how something had happened in the gap between good and enough that I had not seen coming. That's the part that still sits with me, not the anger, the gap. Here is what happened in the 6 months after that conference room. Dana's equity was voided under the partnership clause. Grace made it clean and final. Cole Analytics Group ceased operations. The cease and desist held. She had no legal ground to use our methodology or our templates. Of the 4 clients she had approached, 3 remained with us. 1 left. Not to her, they left because the situation made them uncomfortable. I understood. I sent their CFO a handwritten note and wished them well. Dana settled. Not in court, in a mediated agreement that took 6 weeks and cost both of us more in legal fees than the settlement itself. She paid back the $340 expense report. She paid licensing fees for the months she used our templates. She signed a non-compete for 3 years. She kept her laptop. She kept her contacts. She kept whatever she had built outside our systems. She did not keep her name on the door. The company is Mercer Analytics again. Just Mercer. The thing I did not expect was the clients. Not the ones who stayed, the ones who called. 4 other CFOs reached out in the month after the letters went, not because Dana had contacted them, because they had heard. Word moves fast in financial consulting circles. They called to say they were glad I was still there. They called to ask if I was okay. One of them, Marcus Webb, CFO of a construction firm we'd worked with for 3 years, said something I have thought about many times since. He said, "I always assumed the work was a partnership, but when I really thought about it, the person who answered when something broke, the person who called back at 7 in the morning when the board presentation had an error, that was always you, Claire. Dana was excellent, but you were the one who showed up when it mattered." I did not know how to receive that. I thanked him, I moved on, but I wrote it down, in the blue folder, not as evidence, just because it was true and I wanted to keep it. The last piece of the object. The blue folder. It sits in the bottom drawer of my desk now. I don't open it often. Most weeks I forget it exists. But there is one thing in it that wasn't evidence. On the morning after the conference room meeting, I came in early. Dana had not yet been told her access was revoked. I found a yellow legal pad on her desk, the same kind she had brought to our first meeting at the coffee shop on Burnside. I don't know why I kept it. I'm a financial analyst. We keep records. But I think part of me wanted to remember that the person who built half of what we built started with 12 good questions on a yellow legal pad, and that somewhere between that morning and 14 months ago, something shifted in a direction I did not see. That is not an excuse for what she did. It is a record of what we lost. I hired 2 people to replace her. Not 1, 2. Because the honest accounting of what Dana did was enormous, and trying to replace it with 1 person was a lie I was not going to tell myself. Both of them started in May. On their first day, I showed them our onboarding system, the one Dana built, the one that still works exactly the way she designed it. I didn't change it. It's good. It was always good. I just made sure this time that every system, every template, every process is documented and owned and clearly ours. I am a financial analyst. We keep records. I know that now in a way I didn't before. Here is what 8 years of building something with someone and then losing it the way I lost it taught me. Trust is not a substitute for documentation, not in business, not with anyone. The partnership agreement we signed in year 4 had a clause that saved me, but I had not read it in 7 years. I had filed it and moved on because I trusted her. Trust her. Read the agreement anyway. Not because everyone is Dana. Most people are not Dana, but because the agreement is the floor, the trust is the ceiling, and you need both. The blue folder is in my drawer. The onboarding system still works.
Mercer Analytics is still here, and on the first Monday of every month, I sit down with Grace for 30 minutes. No agenda, no crisis, just a check-in, the way you service an engine before it breaks. That's what I should have done from the beginning. I do it now. If someone in your professional life has access to everything you built, your clients, your systems, your name, pull out the agreement you signed with them and read it this week. Not because you don't trust them, because the agreement is what trust looks like in writing, and written things hold up in rooms where voices don't. That's my story. 8 years, 11 days, 1 blue folder, and a company with my name on the door. Just mine. If this reminded you to pull out the agreement sitting in your drawer and actually read it, do it this week. Not because you don't trust them, because trust is the ceiling and the agreement is the floor, and you need both. If someone in your life has access to everything you built, share this with them. Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm here every week. Same ending every time. She stayed calm, she stayed quiet, then she won.